Good to see you. Good to be here. We are here with Terry REINTKE, with Bas EICKHOUT, and we will quickly walk you through our main points of this week, starting with Terry.
Thanks a lot, Pia. Good morning, everyone. I will try to make it short. First of all, obviously, the topic of the day is the Commission Work Programme, which has already been a topic for us for quite a number of weeks now, because we were trying to positively influence it. You probably remember the motion of censure debate that we had. So what we have seen so far, I think we can very clearly conclude that there is light and shade in this proposal. There are obviously positive elements where we have been successful in moving forward some of the crucial issues that maybe weren't that present in the Commission work in the last year, like, for example, moving forward, moving up the Circular Economy Act or also climate adaptation legislation. These are certainly positive elements, or the phase out of fossil fuels. So we see that there is an understanding that we need to stay on course when it comes to the Green Deal. Also, and you know, the trade unions pushed for this a lot, the Quality Jobs Act, because we believe that the workers of Europe are really closely looking at what the Commission is doing. There is a court ruling coming up on the 11th of November, which I'm quite anxious about, and what effect this might have. It's on the Minimum Wage Directive for the debate on social issues in Europe. So having these kind of symbols of still continuing on the social agenda is very important. I could name other things like the Digital Fairness Act. So there are positive elements. At the same time, we can also see that there is still this sort of danger hanging above our heads, and this is using omnibuses as an entry point for deregulation. We have seen that this is a very risky game, not only when we talk about the actual substance of the legislative acts, but also when we talk about process. The Parliament has gone through a number of omnibus proceedings in these past months, and doing legislation like this, very often with very short notice procedures, is certainly not very good in terms of democratic standards, but it's also not good in terms of actually giving clarity to what we want to have as regulation for the next years when it comes to green transformation, but also to other issues. And now you're probably going to ask how we are going to vote this week, because there is going to be a vote on the existing. The first omnibus, we have decided as a group to go against the mandate. We want to open it again because we believe that the deal that has been struck is not sufficient. And I'm going to give you two different aspects of why I think it is very important that we will succeed with this this week. The first one is more a procedural one. What has happened here, and if this is going to be the way how things are done in this Parliament in the next years, good luck, is that there was basically a blackmailing situation where EPP put a deal on the table with the far right, very clearly saying that they are not going to follow the agreed way of dealing with things in this Parliament according to a cordon sanitaire. So it was either this, do or die, or you take the deal that is on the table. We think this is not how pro-European democratic majorities should be formed. There should be a compromise spirit in the way how we deal with each other. And that is why, in the end, you know, when then the other groups decided to go ahead with this, we were kicked out. And I think that this is not the way that it should be done. But we also see that in the mandate that is on the table now, that there is still room for improvement, that actually all the groups could live with. For example, when we speak about the scope, this is why we are going to try to reopen the mandate and then hopefully have better and more trusting negotiations with the pro-European democratic groups for another attempt to go ahead with this. The last point I wanted to make is on Hungary. I think you have all followed the revelations on now a number of media reports when it comes to these spying networks here in the European institutions. As you can imagine, we are quite worried about this. We have been a group that has been very engaged on fighting for rule of law and democracy in Hungary. The fact that there are people being recruited, for example, in the Commission to try to get access to sensitive information is very worrying. What role did the Commissioner Vaheli play play in all of this. We want to find out more, and this is why we have already gone public with asking for an inquiry committee. Now, as you know, we will have to work on a mandate for this, then collect signatures, then the COP decision will be taken. We first want to see with the other political groups how we can get to clarity where they stand, but we certainly believe that looking deeper into this and really finding out what happened there is of the essence, and that is why we are going to continue pushing on this matter.
Thanks a lot, Terry. Bas.
Thank you, and good morning also on my behalf. And then, of course, for the rest of the week, I think there will be a lot of attention to the UCO, right? I mean, that's I think, where most of the attention will be. If you look at the program and if you look at the draft council conclusions, it's all pretty straightforward, what you could have expected. But, of course, what we know very well behind the scenes, at this UCO, you will see the heaviest attack on the Green Deal. And that has to do with the discussion around the 2040 target, which, as you may remember, was put towards the UCO. And therefore you see some council conclusions around climate and competitiveness. You also saw a letter yesterday by Ursula von der Leyen on the matters that will be discussed probably during dinner. And what we see is really the heaviest attack on the Green Deal, which of course focusing very much on the car legislation, where now the Commission is even mentioning advanced biofuels as an option, which we are very much criticizing because that will never be climate neutral. And if this sector is not getting to climate neutrality, you can just throw your target of climate neutrality out of the window. Let us be very clear on that. So it's a very concerning direction. And at the same time, also language around ETS1, ETS2, opening up those files. It's all quite concerning. The letter itself is, of course, a very diplomatic way of putting things on the table. But let's see what will be there also coming out of that UCO. We don't expect maybe that council conclusions will change drastically, but we have to know, of course, what will be promised on the different reviews that are upcoming, which are also partly in the work program that Terry already mentioned. That brings me also very much and logically to the COP30, because what Europe is doing is being watched by the rest of the world, certainly for COP30, so the climate conference in Brazil. Next time when we are in Strasbourg, I am just back from Brazil, so I might be a bit sleepy at that moment, but let's see how I will be. But it's very clear a lack of ambition of Europe is also influencing the lack of ambition that we saw in the plans by countries like China. We are all watching each other, and the continuous lowering of ambition is very concerning for the outcome of COP30 in Brazil as well. We keep you posted, of course. Last points this week that are of importance to us is all around forests. You do know that the Commission today will come with the proposal on the deforestation regulation. We still think and are of the opinion that this should not have opened up. This was amateurism by the Commission, let's be very honest. Their ICT problems, I'll stay polite here, but it's fascinating how amateuristic that can be. We still think that it should not have opened up, but the Commission has decided to open it up, probably, and that we will see somewhere appearing this afternoon. Let's look at the proposal carefully. But we are, of course, very critical on the further simplification that will probably be in this proposal. And then on the other part, this Parliament will still vote on the forest monitoring law. And, well, you heard this morning Manfred Weber already saying that it will be deleted, that it will be defeated. Let me be very clear. Again, EPP sidelining with the far right to kill a Green Deal file. Secondly, EPP doesn't even want to monitor the status of forest, because that's what we're doing. We don't even know very well the status of forests in Europe. And this proposal was a very toned down, very simple proposal to monitor the state of forests. And even that goes too far for EPP. They are just hiding how bad it is going with our forests. And that's also why climate targets are under threat, because of the state of our forests. And EPP doesn't want to know, and is willing to work with the far right to kill that. That's the status of the EPP at this stage. And, well, you can be sure that we are not on that side also in the vote this week on the forest monitoring law. Thank you.
Thank you, Bas. Thank you, Terry. Happy to take your questions. Also, if there are any questions online, and please also indicate quickly your name and the media you work with. Max was first.
Thanks, Gira, for Politico. I have a question for each. I'll start with Terry. Well, I just wanted to clarify whether you're calling for Varhelyi to resign, given the espionage scandal, whether you could clarify that, whether the Greens want Varhelyi to resign. And then for Bas, perhaps a more national question, because I saw you were in the PES Congress discussing about the Green Deal with Teresa Rivera. And I think in new law, well, in the regulation on political parties, on European political parties, a national party cannot be a member of two European parties. And of course, PvdA GroenLinks are now one legal entity. So the question is, in the long term, which one they'll go for, whether you're scared that the decision will be PES and not EGP. Thank you.
So now I again go for the Dutch question, and you ask Anton Riley. No, I can quickly say something about this. I think for us now, having a way how we can figure out what actually happened is the key issue. So having an inquiry committee, and then to find out what is happening. Also, the Commission is having an investigation. I think what is concerning for me is that when you read some of the articles and when you hear around the rooms, and I'm not saying that it's all true, but we really have to investigate on this, there had already been red flags beforehand. So the Commission has to really do their job now, investigate, and then I think calling for resignation and removing Varhelyi would, if this becomes obvious in this investigation, the next logical step. But the Parliament also has to do its job, because at the end of the day, we are the European institution that is controlling the Commission. And if we are not now looking into this and really finding out what happened there, I think it's very, very hard to say that on other issues we are doing a proper job in terms of scrutiny. So yes, that can be one of the outcomes, but for us, the key issue right now is to have a proper investigation, and the best place to do this would be an inquiry committee, and that is why we are going to push for that.
But we wouldn't mind if Varhelyi resigns. We have no complaints about that. I mean, we never supported the guy. So if he would resign, I think we would be happy. But of course, let's do the honourable way, the royal way of the inquiry committee first. On the Dutch situation, it becomes a tradition. First of all, we are now still two different parties. You said we are one entity. That's not the case yet. So the planning is that the new party will be founded next year, and the temporary date for that is around June. So next year there might be the step to form a new party. That's what the members have agreed to. So we're not there yet. For now, we are just running together on one list with two separate parties. But you're absolutely right. We are, of course, also looking then into the European consequences of it. Our aim is still to remain active in both families, because we do feel, and this is also why I was there at the PES conference last Saturday, this was about progressive cooperation. If you now look into Europe, where we stand as progressives, we need to work together to fight the far right. That's the biggest enemy out there, so we need to work together. And I will always fight for working closer together, because I do think the progressives should be doing that. In the Netherlands, we take it a step further, I think for good reasons, to go against the fragmentation that is very big in the Netherlands. As you know, sometimes we even have more than 20 parties in the Dutch parliament with 150 seats. So it's sometimes very busy in the parliament if you let all the political groups talk. So therefore, we are very much convinced that we are trying to change that tide and get more centralization, more kind of parties working together, and therefore also merging. We are doing that in the Netherlands, but we are also very clear that that is not going to happen very fast at the European level. And for that, we would love to stay together and active in both political families. Legally, we have to find kind of ways of making sure that that will happen, and we are looking into that. That's where we stand now.
Thank you. Second question, third, fourth. A second goes to the up.
Ok, bonjour, Emmanuel Strosser pour Bruxelles 2, en français. Une question pour poursuivre sur la demande d'une commission d'enquête. À qui vous la demandez précisément? En fait, je commence à avoir des doutes. C'est au niveau du Parlement européen, de la Commission. Est-ce que ça doit aussi, par exemple, inclure le cas d'un député de votre groupe, Daniel Freund, pour une autre forme d'espionnage sur son téléphone et la plainte qu'il a déposée? Et puis l'autre question qui n'a rien à voir, elle porte sur le conflit à Gaza. Quel rôle vous défendez, vous, de l'Union européenne dans ce qui pourrait être une force de stabilisation s'il y en a une qui émerge?
Maybe I start with the Hungary case. No, we want to have an inquiry committee in the European Parliament because, I mean, you have had cases like, for example, the PEGA case, where we had an inquiry committee here, where I think you can arguably say that, as opposed to other national parliaments, the European Parliament doesn't have in an inquiry committee as powerful tools as others, but still it is a very important place where we could, for example, ask people to show up, ask them questions, to find out more about this, because indeed some of the allegations are still not completely clarified, so we have to find out what exactly happened there, who passed on which information. And especially also regarding the portfolio that the commissioner had in the last term, which was on also talking about, for example, accession negotiations, which are very, very sensitive when it comes to passing on information. So we definitely need to find out there more. There will also be other places where, for example, committees, including the CONT committee that Daniel Freund is member of, but also the LIBE committee, will question different people. However, an inquiry committee is a really concerted action of moving forward on this, and we believe it is very much necessary to do that, also here in the Parliament. So very clearly what the Commission is doing in terms of investigation from our point of view is not enough. Also the European Parliament has to investigate.
And just on Gaza, let us be very clear, right? Stopping the fighting doesn't mean peace yet. So we are happy that there is a ceasefire, although there, of course, it's already violated a couple of times from both sides. But if we are talking about peace, we are talking about long-lasting peace. And I think we all know that Trump doesn't have the patience for that. He just comes in, he wants it to stop, and then he moves out again and thinking it is solved. That is not peace. So now working on a long-lasting peace, that's where Europe needs to step in. Because also, let's be honest, we were quite sidelined on the deal that Trump struck with Netanyahu. That, in the end, is good that there is a ceasefire if that maintains. But now we need to get long-lasting peace. And for that, you need a much longer process where everyone is involved, all sides are involved. We also, of course, look at the past, what has happened. Reconciliation with that also needs to happen, and for that Europe needs to become very active and should step in. On your question how that will exactly look like, I think that is way too early, but for now it is very clear, if you want a long-lasting peace, Europe needs to step in, and we have been on the sideline way too long.
Thank you. I see two more questions. Okay, then we try to do it bilaterally. Thanks, everyone. Bye.